good afternoon, and or good morning, depending when you're watching this. Welcome to the summer reading program. My name is Robert Rebman. I'm a faculty member in the College of Business at Benedictine University. My discipline is accounting, which I think can be really boring, but we do some really cool things in accounting. My research interests relate to corporate social responsibility, including how do we measure and decide if companies are doing a good job for their communities, for their stakeholders, for the environment. It's pretty neat stuff. I'm interested in this, and I'm glad I was contacted because the way businesses operate really do make a difference. The hallmark this year is hospitality, and business organizations really have a lot to do with opportunities for people of all kinds in society, and it gets back to diversity and inclusion. I've put together a short PowerPoint that I would like to share and help us to keep a little organized with where we're at. This will be available to you also. Here we are. So hospitality, inclusion, and diversity in business organizations. So the Benedictine hallmark of hospitality. When I read this, one of the things I pulled out is this sentence that I've kind of chopped up a little bit, but cultivating an openness. Cultivating, it's a verb. Allowing ourselves to be transformed by the other, cultivating, developing ways to recognize the gifts and talents possessed by maybe people who are different from us, people of various races, cultures, and backgrounds and dispositions. A call to openness, to being genuinely open. This paper I picked relates to diversity and why diversity is really important in business organizations. McKinsey is a global consulting firm. This has been part of an ongoing study, and they basically find that, yes, it really makes a difference. I've provided excerpts of the paper. It's a little bit of a long paper, but there's a lot of pictures and charts. And I've given you some excerpts with some of the highlights. Some of the key points here. Remember, business organizations are people. They're not suits, right? In New York City, Wall Street, or downtown Chicago. Business organizations, for-profit, non-for-profit, are people. A challenge we have in society and business is using all of the talent that we have to solve problems. We still have hunger. We still have children dying of preventable childhood diseases. There's work to do. McKinsey and Company finds that more diverse companies are more successful. And it's not maybe, but they find that that's really the situation. Why doesn't it happen more often? Think about if you're running, right? And if you're on crutches, if you don't use all of the talent, like both of your legs, right? You're not going to run as well. If you are a business organization and you don't use all of the talent that's in your organization or a society, right? Like just over half the population of the world is women. If we don't use all of the talent that's there, if we see gender discrimination going on, we are not using all the talent. We're like running on a race on crutches. And I put sorry here, my apology, but this is how it is. Women get paid less than men for the same work. It's getting better, but it's got a ways to go. And women also face greater barriers to advancement. This is one of the tables from the McKinsey paper. And you can see women in most countries are representing about half of the workforce. So we see a lot of women in the workforce, but we don't see equivalent percentages on executive teams, in leadership positions. Even in the US, 21% of the people on leadership teams are women. That means 1 out of 5. So if you're a woman and you come to a leadership meeting, it's probably you and 4 other men. You're outnumbered, right? That's kind of where we're at. What can we do about this? Again, we want to be successful. We want to solve problems. In business and in research, we follow a pattern. What we try to do is to identify and understand the problem. What's the question we're trying to solve? Then we gather facts, data, right? Evaluate that data that we've gathered, and then use that to develop solutions. We don't just yell and scream at one another, but we need to get data and support what's going on so we can understand what's going on. With that in mind, we look at this data. We see women as not being in leadership positions. Well, one thing we could do is maybe recruiting. Are we actually advertising and recruiting women for these open positions? And I would add, this also applies to racial and ethnic diversity as well. Where do we recruit? Are we giving women adequate training and support? Hey, that would help, wouldn't it? A big thing is inclusion. And you'll see a lot of people talking about diversity and inclusion. Inclusion is hospitality, and it's critical to make change happen. Think about your experiences regarding inclusion. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you didn't belong? Like maybe a group project at school, maybe on a sports team, maybe a band or orchestra, maybe at a party, right? And you feel like you didn't belong. Think about, why did you feel that way? Was it because you were the only person in your age or your own of your gender? You didn't see anybody there that was like you in some important way. And think about, how did it affect you? In a business setting, if only 1 out of every 5 people on leadership teams are women, what does it mean when you walk into a meeting of 5 people in a leadership circle and you're the only woman? What does that do to you? Do you speak up? Do you feel confident to be able to put forth ideas? Or do you feel like you got to sit back in the corner? Do you feel like you have to constantly justify your value and your existence? Inclusion is really critical. If we get people in the door, how do we maintain that? How do we get people to contribute? What can business organizations do to make a difference, right? Business organizations are people. You guys, all of us, are part of the world of business, like it or not. We are employees, we're managers, we're owners, we're customers, we're consumers. We're part of the world of business. What can you do to make a difference? It's a long paper. Maybe something to think about when you're reading is, use this skim and go approach. Skim through the whole thing, identify the highlights, the key points. Then go back and read what you feel are important or critical parts in greater detail. It's not something to read word for word, start to finish. Skim through it, get an idea what's going on, go back and dig deeper. Look at the charts, they're very helpful. Regarding the Benedictine hallmark of hospitality and ethics, it's okay to be normative. We can say that something is wrong, like having organizations that are not diverse, that are not hospitable to women, to people of ethnic or racial minorities, that's not right. So we can be normative. Read about this stuff, learn about it, and act. Do all of those. It comes together. If you have an interest and would like further information or interest in talking about this, I'm more than happy to talk to you. Email works really well, especially in the summer. My email address is rrebman@ben.edu. Everybody's email address is kind of first initial, last name @ben.edu. Send me an email. I'd be glad to correspond with you. I can send you further information. I hope you enjoy the reading. Again, skim and go, dig a little deep in important parts. Maybe you will find a way to make a difference in your part of the world. We don't all have to change the whole world, but we can make our part of it a little better. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the reading. Certainly reach out and let me know if you'd like to discuss or you have any questions on this, or, as you're taking classes, things like that. Be glad to talk to you. Have a great summer and welcome to Benedictine.